sort of where he moved from the circus pieces into the, into actually more just straight out sculpture. Oops. Yeah, so if you have a child in your class doing the mouse, they won't do that, but I'm not so good with that. So this one is called Rearing Stallion, and you can see obviously here that he's used two different types of wire. This is a finer gauge twisted wire. And also, we talk about balance. Could this horse stand up if it was not attached to its base? What do you guys think? If you're fast readers, you'll know no, it couldn't. So it's actually attached to the base. So then how does he achieve balance? He achieves balance by having a lot of weight through the tail here and on that mane, which sort of counterbalances those legs that are jutting forward. You can't really see it, but down here he's actually signed his name in wire, which I think is super neat. If you get the opportunity to look at it when you look at it on the on your PC, because this is on the website, so this is on the Artlit website. That's how I looked at it. You can just see it, and it's really neat that he, again, that notion of playfulness, that notion of how he really took everything and kind of put it on its head. It really, I think, shows up in the fact that that guy signed his name in wire. Oh, I promised, wait a minute. I promised this was the part where we're going to talk about the project. Oh, just blew it there, almost. So, if you have a piece of wire, and if you're feeling adventurous, hold that wire.
Does anybody need wire?
If you need wire, Michelle has wire. Okay, so this is the project. This is the project. It's not going to be an additional project cost.
Are you sure?
The goal here
Maureen, are you,
is
oh, no.
straight out
Okay.
simple, and I'm going to show you a couple examples so that you have a sense of where we're
I don't
going.
know.
Oh, my first time.
Oh, yeah. It's to make either an animal or a person out of a continuous piece of wire. Someone made a really neat lion. I really like this lion. And this, I kind of got smushed in my car. I'm sorry, Michelle, I defiled your art. Was at one time a standing elephant. But the elephant got a little smushed in my car, so my apologies. But I love how Michelle made it three-dimensional, and she really thought about what sticks out. So the piece of advice that Michelle had is just take a second and think about what you want to create, whether it's a face, and I think for the younger grades it may be easier to start with a human shape rather than an animal shape. That's something that those of you who talk to younger kids may want to think about. Just take a second and sort of think about what kind of animal would be interesting. I was thinking that I might try an alligator, that I thought that up and down bouncies on the back of an alligator would be interesting, but you might think of a bird or a dog or some kind of animal. I'm guessing a lot of kids will do their pets because that's something that they relate to too. So take a second, and then once you kind of have that inspiration in your head, go ahead and start working. So, you know, I'm totally good with you guys going to town on it and just start bending and twisting and turning. Michelle's got another example. Oh, you have to hold a piece of paper behind it because it's really hard to see otherwise. Sorry. Here's a cat. So they're easier to see if you.
And they're not going to be cutting the wire at all, right? They're just going to keep it.
No wire cutting, no power tools. Sean was very disappointed. I got wire cutters to school. Well, sorry, this is white on white. This is polar bear in a snowstorm. But I didn't even tell me what this is. Oh, my hand's on it too. It's a seal. Now we're moving on to the mobiles. So Calder started, as I said, was the inventor of the mobile, and he started working with. Oh, going backwards here. He started working with. He was very inspired by the work of Jean Moreau and of Piet Mondrian, who are artists that work strictly in color and shape. They're both painters who worked in color and shape. And Calder started to think about what if you took those colors and those shapes and you made them three-dimensional. And when you look at his art, and particularly I see the Moreau connection a lot, but he really sort of took it again and just turned it on its ear and said, what would happen if you brought these things to life? And he also brought his engineering to this. So he started creating a series of what he called mobiles. And then he started creating a series of things that didn't move. The mobiles, when he started making the mobiles, some of them had motors or cranks. And then over time he developed, he really wanted them to be able to move just based on air current, people walking around them, so that the person observing the art becomes part of the art as it moves. Your experience of it is partly the wind that you create by walking up to it. And then he started creating these stationary things. And someone asked him, if this is a mobile, is that a stabile or stabile? Or I don't really know how, you can go French on it if you want, or you can just call it a stable if you want. And so he started creating them. And this is one that is both. It's called Autumn Leaves. And each of these leaves is actually suspended from the leaf above it. So they all move independently of one another. And they are all really, balanced. He really engineered these things. A lot of times he would make a prototype or work with them until they were literally balanced exactly the way he wanted. This one is about 61 inches tall. So if you're talking to an older group of kids, it's about as tall as a tall 5th grader or a tall 6th grader. And it is just really, I think, super cool. Calder made a series of fish. And these are sort of interesting because there's sort of a mobile notion to it with these things suspended and moving, but also you still see the back of the wire sculpture. And what he did was he went out and he found all this glass and he smashed it against the wall of his studio. And then he suspended it. I would recommend that our students not do that. But I think it's pretty neat that he just took it and broke it and hung it up. He made a series of about a dozen of these and gave them away as gifts to people. And I think that was a pretty nice gift. I think probably whoever got those is pretty happy about that. This one is what Calder called a noise mobile. So not only does it have this very, very elaborate sense of balance, because if you look at this one, I think this one looks super hard because this is a really dominant piece hanging down here. There's one really big piece which is counterbalanced by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 little pieces. So a lot of engineering went into it, but in addition to that balance, this piece here rotates, and when it hits these two pieces, makes noise. So not only is he playing with what is the notion of motion, what is the notion of something being very stable, what is the notion of balance, he's also adding this element of noise to it. And I think that's just, again, he's just such a brilliant guy. I just think that's really cool. This is another noise mobile. This is called Le Gang C'est une Lune, and here's the moon or the loon. And here is the piece that rotates around it. This is strictly hanging. There's no stabile to it. And if you look at it, it's probably 15 or 20 pieces. And if you look at it visually, you see a lot extended out here in terms of the little teeny tiny bits, but one big dominant piece over here. So if you translate that to a painting, if you translate that to something that they're going to look at later in the year, it's really possible to have one very dominant piece on one side of a piece of a flat, two-dimensional painting, and then lots and lots of other bits on the other side that are counterbalancing it. And that's not only happening visually, it's happening literally in this particular painting, or mobile, sorry. This piece is called Indian Feathers, excuse me. This piece is called Indian Feathers. And again, he's got one very, very dominant heavy piece, and then he's got these pieces that are designed to look like Indian feathers extending from them. Again, they're attached to one another, so it's very similar to the Autumn Leaves piece that we saw. Is this in order on the slides? Because this is not how I remember it. Is it in order on the slides? Mm-hmm. Okay. And one big counterbalance. This is actually attached to this piece. So if this became unattached, all those feathers would fall. So this is not, I think, have the same literal sense of balance that some of the pieces have. Okay, so there's a piece called Crinkly. And you got the slide and the description of that piece called Crinkly in your packet. But there's no picture of Crinkly here. So you guys have an ethical choice to make. You can lie to our children and call this a piece called Crinkly, but it's not. It's not a piece called Crinkly, and I guess I would just say I don't know the name of this piece, because I think kids are totally understanding of stuff like that. So this is a piece not called Crinkly. And it's a stabile. It's very much, if you look at this, we talked about Juan Miró and Piet Mondrian. Mondrian was very rectilinear, lots of straight line kind of pieces. This piece is very much, if you look at it, reminiscent of a Mondrian piece. And again, you've got